Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC, host of the Two Mics Up podcast. Hey, you know, the seasons have changed, and, it's getting cold outside, for those of us here who live on the East Coast, and those of you who are lucky enough to be out on the West Side, enjoying the weather, but there's times when the season, well, I can't even say seasons really change anymore, but you feel the cold or the rain and different things. And I think this is something that sometimes we take for granted today, with everything with the climate and weather. And I don't think sometimes we really put a lot of thought um, into what goes into following a career path and chasing down storms and being live on TV and kind of sometimes you get dinged up. I know here we laugh when our weather persons or get the weather wrong, bright, sunny out, and you walk out the door and it's cold and rainy. But it happens, right? But we don't put a lot of thought into this. So today we have the pleasure of kind of changing that up with today's guest. Today's guest I found to be amazing. And really, I like to think of, our weather girl because we don't really see a lot of people of color, stepping up and standing out in this field. So without me really going on and dragging this out, I'm going to go ahead and bring this amazing woman to the stage, and I'm going to stop talking, Monique, and I'm going to allow you to please introduce yourself to our audience today.
Hello to everyone who is listening, watching, whatever have you. My name is Monique Robinson. I'm currently a meteorologist in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm a born and raised Jersey girl, lived in Jersey my
Okay.
entire life. And
Okay.
then I went to University of Maryland. I earned my bachelor's of science in atmospheric and oceanic science and
Wow.
my bachelor's of arts in broadcast journalism. I was the first student at the University of Maryland to do that. And
Wow.
then I pursued my first job role on air in Wilmington, North Carolina. Never been to Wilmington my entire life, but I worked there for about 2 years. And then we might dig into this, but I decided it was time for me to grow and go elsewhere. COVID happened, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff with family back at home. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go apply to jobs, but I just don't feel when I agree to something, I like to put my all into it. And so I didn't
Mhm.
feel comfortable signing to stay there for longer when I knew I wanted to grow more. But COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty. So I said, I'm going to go home. And so I was at home for actually an entire year, not working,
Wow.
not realizing it was going to be a year when I agreed to it. But I put my faith in God and I said, I trust you. And I believe that you're going to take me to a place that values me where I can grow. And so
Mhm.
after a year of waiting, um, things worked out. We can dive into it more, but things worked out, and I got contacted by this job, which led me here. And I knew it was God because neither of the two jobs actually that I've previously worked at, whether the first one or this one I applied to, they both found me.
Wow.
So we'll talk about it more, but
Yeah.
those are both of those jobs. I was pulled by God in each of those spaces, and so now I'm here. Within that time frame, though, I started my master's program, so I actually got my master's about a couple months ago in meteorology.
Congratulations. All right.
Yeah, so there's a lot to it. Me, I probably skipped over some stuff too, but that's
Oh
me.
no, well we're gonna find out because again, being a northerner, myself from New York, and growing up in Long Island and living in New York, and it's a change when you move to the South. So, like I said, never been down here. So, what was that initially like? Was it shell shock, or like, oh, what the heck did I just get myself into? Like, what was that initially like? That transformation or that transition?
It was all of that. It was all of that. I think the great part about it, though, is I think God initially kind of exposed me to that transition by going to the University of Maryland initially
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I lived in the same town from elementary school all the way through high school. So for me, I'm used to, going around the corner, knowing this person when you go to the
Right.
bagel shop. You go to church with everybody all your whole life. When I go to school, we've just grown up with the same people forever. So when I went to college, I had that whole adjustment for the first time.
Right.
So, over those 4 years, I grew and I learned the new culture of Maryland. Then I realized, I need to go more places and see
Mhm.
more things. And so, yes, it was a culture shock, but it wasn't like too much of a hard hit because that first hard hit was when I went to college.
Okay, all right, I got you because I know, like I said, I know when we moved down here, I was homesick, and
Yeah.
I'm so used to, the bodega's open 24 hours.
Right.
Everything is 24 hours, and come down here. I think the first time I went out, I don't know, it was like I don't know 7-Eleven or something,
Hmm.
and it was closing. And then I finally went a little further, found one, and again in my mind thinking New York, I wanted to grab a beer, something like that.
Hmm.
Can't buy beer after midnight. I'm like, what the
Right.
hell is going on down here? So
Yeah.
I get it, uh, but that college experience really helped open your eyes and move your eyes. And it's odd that when I heard you even say that. So communications, I understand, but to get into weather
Hmm.
and meteorology, like
Yeah.
what was that was that something that was always an interest to you, or were you inspired to do that?
No,
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 like
no, no,
no, not
no.
at
Great
all.
question. Great question. Great question. So when I went to University of Maryland, I actually had a television program in high school, and I had a teacher who really poured into me. And actually, when I was growing up, I used to do oratorical competitions where I
Mm,
would compete against other folks doing speeches and poetry. I did all that. So when I went to college, Maryland has an amazing journalism program. So I said, I want to be the next big Oprah. This is a great opportunity. They're going to
mm.
groom me. And when I took a journalism course, I had a professor who said he saw no potential in me.
Oh wow.
And it was like my sophomore year, I believe. And I said to myself, okay, maybe this isn't something that I want to do.
Mm,
And so I thought about it for a while, and I said, let me just stick it out one more semester. And there was a general elective weather and climate course.
mhm,
And the weather course, I said, let me just take it for see how it goes. So I took
right.
the weather and climate course, and I fell in love with the weather and climate course. Learning about wind dynamics, learning about lightning. I was like, wow, this is so
Wow.
fascinating. I could do this. And when I agreed to it, I didn't realize, with me being the first student to decide to do those two majors, I would be in the morning shooting a story and in the evening going to take a physics lecture. I would
Wow.
be like all over the place doing
Wow.
it, but it was something that I was like, I finally feel like I found my purpose. I could, bridge the gap here, and I finally have fun with journalism because I didn't have that initially. And especially with that teacher telling me he saw nothing in me, it was kind of
Wow. And I hope, whoever, when you're watching this or listening to this, really hear to me a deeper story. Sometimes your passion may not be your calling.
like,
Uh, and there's people and things out here that will put stumbling blocks in front of you. But our sister, she found a way to get over that, because, that's something to tell a student. Like,
mm-hmm,
I see nothing in you.
mm-hmm,
Like that that can tear somebody down and just crush somebody, period. And some of us are not built or made to get over those things. But your story, you've only not only jumped over that hurdle, you surpassed that hurdle. And I hope y'all were listening, because this is to say she didn't go out and look for these jobs. They came looking for her. And that whole story is amazing to me, and it really just moves me even further. Like, the more I read about you, and really we dug into your background, because, like, to me, this is like one of the dopest things. So you've won, and correct me if I'm wrong, 2 Associated Press awards, right? Um, and this was for covering Hurricane Florence, if I'm correct.
mm-hmm,
Now, that was about what, 2 years ago,
mm-hmm.
3 years ago now.
3 years ago.
Okay, so I just gotta ask, like, what was that experience like? And because I'm blown away, because really, well, I'll save that after you answer this question. But what was that experience like?
So imagine someone who just graduated from college, and prior to even graduating, I was flying across the country for interviews.
Mm,
I graduated college with no job, and I'm sitting at home for an entire month, and I'm just like, Lord, like I did the double majors, I worked so hard, you know, why don't I have a job? I feel like I'm doing the right thing. Why isn't it working out? And
mm,
so I got a job just because I'm sitting at home doing nothing. I still was applying, but I just got like a little side job at a restaurant.
mm,
And I was working as a host at a restaurant. And I realized over that month, I gained the most valuable lesson I needed for that first job. And so I was working that job. I'll tell you about in a minute. But while I was working at that job, over that month, I got a call from my news director, who then in the Wilmington job position. I run into the coat closet at the restaurant and I'm like, hello. And he's like, can you be here in 2 weeks? And I'm like, yeah. And so I'd never been to Wilmington. My mom and I just packed the car up and we just drove down 95 to Wilmington. And Florence came 2 months after I first
Wow.
started working there.
Wow.
So I remember being in my apartment, literally packing everything back up after I had just unpacked everything from moving there. And I'm looking out the window and I see in my apartment complex, my car is the only car in the parking lot. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, my car,
What?
because Hurricane Florence initially was supposed to be a major hurricane. So
Yeah.
everyone was freaking out because I lived not too far from the beach. So everyone
Right.
was getting away. I was telling everybody to get away. But my job is to stay there, stay
Right.
planted. And so I'm just playing gospel music in the background. And I'm just thinking, like, I can't call my mom because she's gonna say, "Girl, come home too."
Right.
I didn't, I was like, what do I do in this moment? So I'm Marvin Sapp's, he has his hand on you came on.
Hmm.
And I felt God speaking to me saying, Mo, this is your time. And
Hmm.
so I stayed. And so those awards are really speaking to that girl who thought that God had forgotten about her, but he said, I was watching
Wow.
you that whole time and I needed you to be there. These people needed you to be there.
Right.
When I was there, I mean, from this, the awards are one part, but I remember there was a woman after the fact where she had like her roof had caved in and
Mm.
she didn't have insurance and it was this whole 9 yard. But then there was another woman who I just happened to meet who also had a church group with fun people, and so I was able to connect that woman to get a roof. That never got me
Wow.
an award, but me being in that position,
Position.
helped me. For some people, I have emails that I still have screenshotted today from people who said, I'm out in Canada because I wanted to get so far away, but I was watching you, to tell
Wow.
me about what was happening in my home. You mean
Wow.
all that stuff spoke to me. So Hurricane Florence, there's a lot to Hurricane Florence for me, but it definitely made me a better meteorologist.
Wow. I mean, I feel the emotion that you still have that uh when you talk about it, and they're sharing that story, and I can imagine how much you've really done that. Like you said, we don't know about the awards are one thing, and that's great. Um, but the behind the scenes and the connections that you're making in the community too, and I think that's a part of broadcasting and journalism and what you do. A lot of us who are watching, we think, oh, it's glamorous,
Mhm.
but there really is a lot of work that goes on for you behind the scenes. And talking about that, like maybe can you share like maybe what some of your days may look like as you're preparing, whether it be to go live on air or you're working in the community?
So, with COVID, things are different. I guess I could talk about what my days are like now here.
Okay.
So when, like, for tomorrow, for example, I have a couple different segments that I do.
Hmm.
And so I have a program that I just started called Met to Met. I do that on my social media
Okay.
where I interview meteorologists across the country that
Oh
I've
wow,
connected with over the years. Yeah.
that's dope. That's dope.
So tomorrow I have that at 9 a.m. And then at 10:30 I have a shoot for I do a segment called Mo on the Go.
Hmm.
And that's through my station wherein I interview phenomenal women in fields of STEM. Um, so I have that at 10:30, and then my workday after that is just me preparing for the newscast. Now tomorrow we're supposed to have severe weather, so I'm just gonna be watching in case anything like pops up throughout the day. But my actual newscast that I'm on isn't until 4 p.m. So obviously in between there I'll get ready, make myself look good.
all that stuff. Get the
Yeah.
makeup team together, makeup and hair together. So
Yeah.
I like something that you said too that I think a lot of us overlook in our community as well. You talk about STEM and young men and women of color. Um, I sometimes because I funny you bring it up too because it's something that we're working on here to do an episode on. But I wanted to touch on that because it's really important. Like we get more of our kids involved because I think that's something that we shy away from or maybe we're not familiar with. And with you kind of doing that type of work, trying to create, I don't want to call it buzz, but create an awareness of how has that been going, and like how do you see that progressing where you are, to get more of our young men and women of color involved in STEM and all of that type of work.
Yeah, I'm trying to put my best foot forward in doing it with the COVID times. I can't really get as in person. I'm a very like I get energy off people in person, so I'm
Hmm.
trying to do my best way of doing it and connecting in these virtual spaces. But I think it's really important that you just continue to shine your light on these children because of the fact that I had that one professor who told me he saw no potential in me, but
Mm.
unfortunately, there's a lot of other teachers who are like that in other spaces where one teacher's comment can
Yeah.
really change the trajectory of a person's life in a good
Yeah.
way and a bad way.
You're
And
100% right.
so the more and more you kind of shine your light on students and say, you know, it is possible for you, the more that they're able to, you know, follow that path and pursue it.
Hmm.
Because really a lot of people who I mean, even the women who I've been interviewing, every single time I talk to them, they say some teacher along the way inspired
Wow.
me. Some teacher, you know, pushed me, you know, whether it was some teacher told me something or some teacher played some video in class that I never forget that video, or she took me on this field trip, or he, you know, said that line to me and I'll never forget. You know, it's always some teacher. So it's
Hmm.
really important that we continue to show the students and show these children what more there is out there.
Yeah, that's definitely so true. And I think with COVID, it has changed things. I just hope though that your parents get involved, uh, or get more involved,
Mhm.
stay involved because it's really important. That your children are getting that support. They're seeing or feel that you're interested in taking part. And like you said, really, it really can take one teacher. Really, I
Mhm.
think about the same thing. I similar experience coming up in high school, and I took a lot of things for granted. I I'd like to think of myself as fairly bright, and I had one teacher that she used to say, I remember I used to get a test. I don't remember what English or whatever it was. She was an English teacher. I think I got like a B, but and it's funny because my wife would tell you. So we were in class together. She thought I was abused or something like that because all I did was sleep. But my
Mhm.
senior year, I only had 4 classes, so I was busy hanging out, partying, whatever. But the teacher said to me, she was like, Mr. Cunningham, if you would just use 50% more energy and really involve yourself, you could be so much more.
Mhm.
And to this day, that sticks with me because when I look back, my early adult life, it was a tragedy. I was wasted. But you know, you kind of go through things, and that stuck with me. And everything that I do now, I'm fully engaged. I'm involved, and I try to give 200%. And I think what you're saying in your experience too. I hope
Yeah.
people are hearing that as we're talking today. Now, one other things too, though, Monique, because I really got to because this right here is dope too, and I really don't know much about it, and I was interested about this because, for a young sister who's really just really getting her feet wet in the game of weather and meteorology and all that, you are now the vice chair
Mhm.
of the newly established, and I
Mhm.
want to make sure I get this right, the National Association of Black Journalists Weather and Climate Task Force.
Mhm.
How, first of all, what is that? Because I know for those listening, because it's a big mouthful. But
Mhm.
what is that, and what is it? What role do you play within this task force?
Yeah, so National Association of Black Journalists has been around for years. That is the primary organization where Black journalists, whether you're in sports, whether you are an anchor, just come together to support each other in this industry. For many years, ever since it's been established, they never had anything specifically catered for meteorologists. And so a group of us meteorologists came together about last summer and said, you know, we want to make this an established task force. We would oftentimes at these organization conventions meet up together, but we never had an established task force. So NABJ is the organization as a whole, but underneath they have like a sports task force, they have
Oh, okay.
a writers task force, they have a broadcasting task. We have all these subsections of Black journalists. So we are Black journalists, we are storytellers, but we never had like a weather, you know, task force for us where we had resources and conferences and
Oh,
professional
wow.
development specifically for us. So now we created that, we established that. So I'm the vice chair of that subset organization. So with that, that's just primarily me, you know, uniting different meteorologists from across the country and kind of setting up programming to ensure that we stay together. It's
Mm.
also setting up programming to help the next generation of meteorologists or storytellers in weather fields. So that's primarily what that is.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like these are for me the things that make me proud and happy to be able to have this because you learn. I find like it seems like every show, every guest, you find something new and amazing that you never knew anything about, and I think this is something that should be celebrated and talked
Mhm.
about in our community. Because, like I said, I remember being a young man. There weren't a lot of faces like yours on TV doing weather, and thankfully, it seems like we have progressed somewhat, but we still don't have, in my opinion, enough.
Right.
Um, so how does that work though? When you're at these meetings and things like that, like how are you guys working to try maybe to entice or bring about more people of color into the meteorology game and the weather game?
Definitely just exposing this to meteorology students because oftentimes, like even with me, when I was graduating with my class, it was only like four out of um 15
Mm,
black students that were in the program. The program itself was already small, but only have four peers in it.
wow.
Is also four black peers in it is
Hmm.
also kind of like that's a small margin. So
Hmm.
imagine if you're in another university that is a predominantly white institution and
Right.
you're a very few black students in your college program, you don't really know a lot of other black students who are doing what you're doing besides the one that are in your school, and it's probably only two or three other people.
Right.
So by being a part of these Zoom calls and conversations and some of the programs that we're having on Zoom, you're able to connect with people. Networking is key, but also networking is really vital for you to just feel like, okay, I'm not the only one going through this. Because
Mm.
if you see my picture with my team, I'm with all white men. I'm the only black woman
Oh
and
wow.
only black person on my
Wow.
team.
Wow.
So for when you're in a room and space like that, sometimes there's a lot of uh, barriers that you're just
Hmm.
not able to have conversations about certain things you just don't know about. And so
Hmm.
by you being able to connect with other peers, you're like, oh, okay, puts me a little bit more at ease and stuff like that. And just be
Right.
able to just connect and learn from each other is really important.
I again, these are things that we on the outside looking in, like I say, you think it's glamorous, and you don't really think of it as a workspace environment like
Mhm.
most others. And like I say, you don't really think of here it is, you're the only woman of color in a male dominated, a white male dominated field, and it could be, and I can imagine it can be
Mhm.
stressful because
Mhm.
sometimes I know guys we have that locker room mentality, uh, comments and gestures that sometimes we as men might that's funny, very inappropriate or can be deemed inappropriate, for someone like yourself. So I'm glad I'm getting again educated. I enjoy learning something new, and I hope everybody else does. So we're going to go ahead and step away for a quick second. I want to allow a moment to thank our sponsors who have been a huge support here on Two Mics Up. So we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause, and we'll be right back after the break. All right, y'all, and we're back fresh out the break. We rocking today with Monique Robinson. She's an award-winning meteorologist. Just in case y'all didn't know, we doing it right here on Two Mics Up today. This sister is amazing. If you're just, you know, joining us, you need to go back and really listen, to Monique's background, her history, and the things that she's gone through, what she's overcome to become the woman that we know right now today. But I know there's so much more for this sister because she does some other things too that I was reading about. So you also have a nonprofit.
Mm.
So Chasing Rainbows, I love that name. What's Chasing Rainbows all about?
So during COVID, as I said previously, I wasn't working for a year, and I love the opportunity to connect with youth throughout the entire time I was working at my previous station, WWAY. I always did school talks all the time. I love talking to students. I actually worked at a school when I was um, in Wilmington, and so when I was not working, I was like, you know what? I don't want to stop connecting with students. I love doing this. And I also have a lot of great relationships with meteorologists.
Mm.
Why don't I start doing, webinars and inviting students to participate, whoever wants to participate? And I just have interviews with some of these meteorologists I know, and I allow the kids also to meet some of these. So that's where it started from. And from there, after I finished the first one, everybody was like, can we do another one? And some men wanted to be a part of it too, because initially I had it just for women or young girls. And so then I invited some men that I knew that are meteorologists, and then, kids did it again. And so that's when I was like, what if I turn this into a nonprofit? Now I've taken sort of a pause on it because I was finishing my master's as well as starting my job here,
Hmm.
but it's not completely done and over with. I have a lot of ideas. Monique's brain is never ending about what I want to do next with it and where I want to grow with it.
Well, look, anything you put your mind to, obviously, as we've discussed today, it roots itself and it takes legs and arms, and may you continue to succeed in that manner.
Mm.
And again, like she said, Monique's brain and her mind is constantly going. This sister also has something else that we read about, Sunday night girl talk. Now, as a man, I try to stay away from girl talk, but I'm pretty sure this is very positive and important. So what is Sunday Night Girl Talk all about? And for those who are listening, it may be in the North Carolina and in the area that you are, how can they get involved, or how can we get involved? Period.
Yeah. So Sunday Night Girl Talk I started because when I first moved here, students from A&T, North Carolina A&T, were contacting me in their meteorology program or just in STEM fields and saying, hey, I would love to meet with you. I'd love to talk with you. And then I just had some other, younger girls who would be in my inbox asking me questions. So I was like, you know what? Let me just make a day and time and we can all just meet each other and all connect. And so on Sundays, I have a lot of flexibility and time. So I said, you know what? Let me just set up this time and day and I just allow all the girls to come on, whoever's available, whoever wants to do it, join in and we can talk about whatever. You guys can meet other girls who are interested in doing what you're doing and kind of just connect like that. So if you're interested in anything that I do, what happened? You can visit either my Instagram, social media, Monique D Robinson, and you can see, or you could just go on my website, moniquedrobinson.com.
Look, y'all heard it here. You ever get your pen and paper, Monique D Robinson,
.com.
.com, and go ahead and support, follow what the sister's got going on. I find her to be incredible. This is something that
Mhm.
I've learned a lot today, um, and I hope you all do too. So before we kind of come around the bend to close this thing out, like I say, you have so many things in your mind. I'm just curious to know,
Mm.
outside of the things that we talked about today, what's next for Monique Robinson?
My goal actually is to put all of this into my own show one day.
Okay.
I definitely would love to be on like a PBS type space or some type of space where I can unite my sciencing background, but also my inspirational conversations that I do with folks. Just some type of Mo talk show
Okay.
situation. That is always something that I wanted to do. I mean, even when I went to Maryland, I said I wanted to be the next Oprah. It
Hmm.
was spawned for me desiring to do that, have my own talk show. So that is what I want to work towards doing one day. And so, yeah.
Well, it's going to happen. You're a natural. Uh,
Mhm.
it will. And I before I even do it, because you said something too that I really love about this show, inspirational, and you like to have inspirational talks and inspirational conversations. What could one thing, or could you share maybe one thing that you would share with someone else who maybe is interested in really getting into your field, and to help inspire them
Mhm.
to go ahead and continue to pursue that? Is there one thing maybe you can share, or one thing you can think
Um,
about? Because I know I'm putting you on the spot with that one.
no, 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 it's
No, no.
fine. It's funny. I interview people all the time, but when you say it's the person being interviewed, it's like,
It's
dang.
different, right?
um, but I would say you have to believe in yourself. And
Mm,
I guess that goes to whatever you want to do in life. You have to believe in yourself because there's been many times throughout my journey, even friends' journeys or people who I watch on podcasts or I listen to on podcasts or watch interviews. It always comes to this point where you have to look past what the naysayers are saying and
mm,
believe in yourself.
right.
And if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to be stagnant and you're going to be stuck.
Wow.
And oftentimes, you're actually, especially when you think of life as a ladder, you're going to forever be at level one on that ladder. You'll never be able to climb any higher if you don't believe that you can.
Mm,
And so it's really important that you believe in yourself. Your mom could say it all day long. Your dad could say it all day long. Your best friend, your boyfriend, your girl, whatever.
right.
But if you don't believe it,
That's
you ain't
powerful.
going nowhere.
That's powerful right there. That's very, very well said. And I hope any young man or woman that's really interested in pursuing a career in journalism, become a meteorologist, or really anything you do in life, it's very important that you do take heed to what Monique just said. That's very powerful. And if you have to go back, rewind this a couple of times and let it play, let it sink in,
Mm,
go ahead and do that. Because I think if one person can gain something from today's conversation, then we have done our job.
right.
And that's what it's all about here on Two Mics Up. So, Monique, thank you for sharing your time with us. And before we go, please go ahead again. Please give your, any social media,
Mhm.
your website again, where people can follow, support everything that you're doing. So I'm going to step away and I'm going to give you the screen
Okay.
and let you go.
All right, yes. So my website is Monique Moniqued Robinson ROBINSON.com. And my social media, my Instagram is Monique D Robinson again. My Twitter is MD Robinson TV. And my Facebook is just Meteorologist Monique Robbins. If you can't find me, just search my name. I bet you'll find it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive you will. Like I said, I think that's actually how we were looking into actually another topic,
Mhm.
and I think misspelled the name, and kind of like, oh, who's this? Like, oh, I'm looking around. We're looking like anybody think about doing a weather show? Weather. So yeah, so the sister just popped up, and we just kind of pitched it around in our meeting. Start digging in. I was
Wow.
like, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and get there. I mean, so sometimes some things are just meant to happen, and
Mhm.
I'm just so glad that we had time to sit down and chat with you today. Continue success, Monique.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch,
Yeah.
hopefully, and we'll be watching you grow and continue to blossom. So,
Yes. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, you have it. That's today's show with Monique Robinson, amazing meteorologist. So, like you always do, or you can do, ladies and gentlemen, you can follow Two Mics Up online, www.twomicsup.com. You can follow us across all of our social media, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Two Mics Up. And if you're watching, go ahead and go down there, hit that little thumbs up, thumbs down, leave us a comment, hit that bell over there in the corner so that you can be notified from all the newest content from us here at Two Mics Up. And like we always do at this time, stay
Mhm.
safe, stay blessed. Mics out.